Hey, sixth graders, welcome back. Yeah, it's been a while. So my face is probably unfamiliar to you. Anyway, I'm gonna dive in with you all. This is the last 2 days of I have this sort of like this is day -2 before we get back to a different reality. Anyway, today, a couple things. We got to talk about some new norms and expectations. I'm gonna do that with the kids who show up tomorrow as well. So I'm not going to go over it for those of you on video, but basically we have some new norms to establish as of next week. And the schedule is going to change. And those of you that never came to school, you cohort C from the fall, you have a different world to consider. So we need to go over that together. I won't go over that here. Today, here's the thing. You have two challenges. First things first, in our Schoology, you'll notice I have a review test of noun. It's a review / test of nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and prepositions. Please do not stress. It's about giving me information, but please take it because it tells me if you've retained and followed along when we've been doing with nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and prepositions. If you don't know this stuff, then we need to keep coming back to it. And if everyone gets 10 out of 10, then I don't have to worry. I don't think everyone will get 10 out of 10. I think some of you will get 3 out of 10. It won't destroy your grade. And there's not about pressuring you to be like, all nervous, but it will be telling to me like how much work we need to do. So right here, that's first things first. Then you'll notice that the rest of the work is pretty simple because it's about this video. And let me just go through it. Your challenge is we're done with our book, right? We've read the crossover. And we have Kwame Alexander to thank for this showing us like all these different ways to make writing interesting. He did it a bunch of different ways. We're going to just focus on just writing and some of the things we studied, which is figurative language, which he does so much of. We're not going to worry about the visual art as much because that's poetry. I would like you to write more. And that's what most of you chose to do, frankly, in last Thursday. So here's the thing. The challenge is to take and go through a mini journey through writing, which means pre-writing, writing, and then revising and editing. So the writing process. The writing process is not sitting down and writing and then being done. That's not the writing process. The writing process is sitting down, writing something, stepping away, coming back, looking at it, changing it, adding it, maybe subtracting, boom, step away, come back one more time and think you're done. Go through it one more time, checking for sentences and capitalization and periods and commas and all that stuff, then you're done, right? If you don't do that stuff, you will always submit things that are less than what you are worth. All right, so here's the challenge. Write a fun tale or story of one event from the past week. I don't care what it is. It could be a funny family meal, an embarrassing moment, a particularly interesting dream, an interesting read. Maybe you sat down and read a story, a fun conversation you had with a friend or a family member, or it could be a scary close call, like something almost happened. This could be anything. I could talk to you. I could write a story about me trying to set this loop on my mask. If I'm using the writer's craft, I can make it interesting. And that's the whole point of what we're talking about. This was a story about a kid who likes basketball. He's pretty good at it. His dad was a big-time basketball player, and they've got family issues. This is not a different story than thousands of people across the country and then millions of people across the world. But this story is unique because Kwame Alexander did it his way. All right, so what are we going to work on in this assignment? Number one, skill is adding the craft of writing to your story. Using figurative language, right? Using it. Learn it, use it, because it makes things more interesting. You become a better storyteller. You become a better communicator. That's skill number one. Skill number two, you have to learn how to polish. I love some of you are writing so many wonderful things. I haven't asked you to polish it, but the world won't tell you necessarily after you leave school when you need to be polished or not. You should always assume everything you publish to someone should be polished because they're going to judge you. If your spelling's terrible, they're going to say, I don't know if I can trust this person. Their spelling is terrible or they didn't care enough. So skill number two is polish. And skill number three, we got to start getting down to deadlines. You don't get to choose when things are due in the real world. They are told to you when they're due and you have to deliver. That's a soft skill we have to practice. So you're going to have to meet this deadline. Either you're going to get points for it or not. All right, so here's the steps for today. Pretty simple. You've been through them before. I call it step 1A for those of you that can't start writing. I say you brainstorm a story. So this is the pre-writing portion of the writing process. If you don't know how to start writing, this is not for everyone, but this is if you are staring at a blank page and you're like, I don't know what to write. So I sat here and I did this little donut, right? Story ideas. And then in the donut, I wrote wrestling with Clara, going to the hotel on Friday night for a getaway. My wife and I did that just to have a mini vacation. Filming Broadway at Apple Valley High School. I actually helped out on a video shoot on Monday. It was really fun. It was like my old career back in my world. And then I took Clara to the school to go swimming this last weekend. That's one of the perks of being a teacher. So I came up with 4 events from the past week. They're all, if I told you that, you'd be like, oh, wow, Mr. Slaby, ooh, really interesting. That's the point. They're not interesting. And so what I do for step 1, and this is me, I don't need this anymore because I'm a natural jump, like I just dump right. Or actually, I like to call it the vomiting. I vomit my story on paper. And it's really step 1, get a story down on paper. Doesn't matter if it's good, bad, whatever. So what I do is I vomit, blah, and I don't worry about details. I just get the story out from point A to point B, and it's probably terrible. So here's my example. On Saturday, I took off our bed sheets and wrestled my daughter on the bed, putting her in a whole bunch of crazy moves. We wrestled for about 10 minutes, and then she was so tired she wanted to quit. Okay, there's a start, there's a middle, and there's an end. That's a boring, terrible story. So now let's go to work on it. So step 2, and that's where you should at least get to today, is I start crafting. I revise. I add details where I can. I add personification to things. I add metaphors or similes, hyperbole, alliteration, onomatopoeia, whatever I can add to spice up my writing. So listen to this. This is the story as it was. This is as it is now. The sheets on our bed stared at me with disdain. They had been neglected from their biweekly washing for a little over 2 weeks. Another week and those sheets would have crackled from stiffness like Christmas wrapping paper. I stripped the bed with a flourish like a bullfighter. Suddenly, my opponent arrived at the door. She had the glower of a gladiator and a steely glint in her eye of an avenger. She lunged lazily like a lounging viper. I dodged more like a mongoose than a mere man. I grabbed her tiny 10-year-old wrist and tugged her body, rushing past me into a vicious hug a 10,000-pound grizzly would be proud of. I pulled her down to the bed, scooping her leg into her cradle. She was helpless, a giggling lump, an afternoon snack to my hunger for victory. Okay, so all the purple was my first version. All the blue is my revising. Notice how much I added. I tried to turn it into a story, and I hope that that's significantly more interesting than that. But I added all this. I added metaphors and similes at these spots. I added personification right off the bat, like the bed sheets staring at me. They can't stare. I added hyperbole down here, 10,000-pound grizzly. It's pretty big. Alliteration, lunged lazily like a lounging viper. All right, so I added a whole bunch of stuff, and it took me a little while. This took 2 minutes. This took 20. That's how it should be. Okay, now, then that's step 2. Step 3 is where we get to for tomorrow. But notice, like right here, I had some stuff wrong. Here, sheets is spelled S-H-E-E-T-S. I wasn't sure, so I checked. Here's another one. Starred. A lot of people screw this up. This is starred. That's starred. Stared is 1 R, okay? So all of the red is where I had to make like a change, like Christmas was lowercase. I had the wrong there. I had to put periods here because as I read it out loud, and you got to read it out loud, you'll hear that there's breaths you take. Those are where you want to probably put a period. I had run-on sentences. Look at this right here. I had to put a comma there, another period there. Like I had a lot of problems here. Dodged, I spelled wrong. I had the wrong then, tugged. And if you need help, have someone help you. There's nothing wrong with that. So that's what we got to do, and then we will turn it in. So expectations for day 1, today. Get story down on Google Doc? Yes, we are typing this. If you want to write this out by hand, I'm fine with that, but you will type this, okay? So I recommend typing it first so you can change as you go. Then we're going to start revising. So that's your you probably won't finish, but you're mostly adding figurative language, probably a little bit of subtraction. Maybe some stuff is just too much. And then I want you to try to get at least to the half a page of writing today on the document. So that's about this much of a computer screen, Okay. Day 2 is tomorrow. We'll finish revisions. So I don't think you'll finish your revisions today. You don't need to turn anything in today. We'll edit for grammar mechanics, spelling, sentence fluency. I want you to, when you read out loud, you find out that sometimes your sentences don't make sense. We've got to get into that habit. And lastly, you're going to submit your best writing tomorrow. Now, what am I grading you on? Number 1, figurative language. You have tons of it, you have some of it, or you don't have enough. Okay, that's what I'm going to grade you on. Grammar mechanics. You did a great job editing. It looks like you made lots of changes, and you probably only have 1 or 2 mistakes. You don't have to be perfect to get a 4, but you can get a 3 if there's 3 to 5. I'm starting to see some mistakes. You missed quite a few. You can get a 2 if I just don't think you edited it all and you just wanted to submit it to get it in. Now look at this third rubric here, on timeness. The bottom line is I'm only giving you 2 grades here. Either you are on time or you're not. So a 4 is you made it by the due date. Nice job. Your work shows reliability. It reinforces that you are a reliable worker. If you can't make tomorrow's due date, then you're not reliable. It hurts your reliability. So we got to get into that habit because that's what the world is going to ask of you. Okay. So any questions, you let me know. This is all for cohort B, obviously, because cohort A is with me. And then next week, we try something entirely different. So this is the next 2 days of your work. Let's go, people. Let me know if you have any questions.